is Night Owls on Greatest Hits Radio.
You never know who's going to call next.
0191 488 3188.
Greatest Hits Radio.
You are with the big one. And we have Ray from Farringdon, who is starting us off. Hi, Ray. Hello, man.
Hi, mate.
Good.
Hello.
Hi. What can we do?
Sorry?
No, go ahead. What can we do for you?
I was just wondering if you'd be able to sort of debate out that's been going on with me and my wife for about 8 months.
Right.
Yes, we were sitting drinking one night and my wife decided we were talking about Hendon Garths. Do you know Hendon Garths?
I do, yes.
Yes, well, the debate is, I think the Twin Towers, their footprints are bigger than Burley Garth and Weir Garth.
Right, Burley Garth and Weir Garth, that's the two of them, and you think that the 9/11 site was bigger than that?
Yes, that's right, yes.
Right. Now, to the best of my knowledge, because the way you've got to look at it is, there were the 9/11 buildings were two massive structures that you could see from pretty much anywhere you were in New York. I mean, there were two huge structures.
Yeah.
Are you talking ground area? Because obviously, if you're talking height, there's no comparison.
No, not height. No, just the footprints, just the actual footprints of the towers themselves, and the footprints of Burley Garth and Weir Garth.
This is down. You see, I don't.
See, the thing is, me partner, she's googled it.
Right.
And you can actually get the sizes for the twin towers, but you cannot get the sizes for Burley Garth or Weir Garth.
Right.
And she's even looking at phoning Sunderland Council. But I thought if we phoned Alan Robson would have all answers.
Well, I don't have the measurements of Burley and Weir, but I've seen it and I've driven past it. And from us, because for those people that are not aware, it's like a big circular area of people's accommodations on various levels. How many levels does it go up to? 2, 3, 4?
I think it was 4 levels. I think Burley Garth and Weir Garth, I think it was 4 levels.
Well, my memory of the 9/11 thing is you've got to remember, because of what was being done in those twin towers, I mean, they were running government... it was a trade centre of the world, wasn't it? Exactly. But because of that, and because there was 2 of them, you got to remember there was a whole batch of land in between the 2 that was part of the site. Now,
there was 7 buildings within the World Trade Centres, and there was 7 buildings within the Garths.
Right.
Which is a bit ironic.
No, absolutely. But I feel because of the nature of what the Twin Towers, which do Twin Towers and Friends, because of the nature of what they did and the fact that there was so much ground in between, I personally would put a bet on that the 9/11 site was bigger than Burley and Weir Garth. That's the way that I go. If we've got anybody who's got a...
See, that's the argument. The argument is not the site, just the footprint.
The footprint itself.
Towers alone.
Right, but if you glue them all together and ignore the bit in the middle.
No,
because you see Burley Garth...
Just say the north and the south tower, those alone, and Burley
Garth and Weir Garth.
Not the site, just their footprints themselves.
Right. Just, I think, because of the distance of ground that belonged to the building in between, I still think that area is a little bigger. I understand why you say it, because there's 2 square-shaped things side by side. So I kind of get it. It's just they don't go up, obviously, as high as 9/11. But I think because of the distance between... Think about this. How far would you have legally to be away from another massive multi-storey building? Now, just for common sense, and that's part of the footprint. It's not just... You can't just say... Well, just the bit where the towers were, ignore the bits in the middle, because the bits in the middle belonged to the towers and all the other buildings that they had there too. And you usually need a good street's worth in between, don't you? And
if that was the case, you would be, if we were talking about the garths, you would have to involve the other garths as well, wouldn't you?
Well, that's the thing, because if you think about it, if there's a street between every building in the 7 buildings, you see what I'm saying? That's why I think that the footprint's bigger there than.
Is that your opinion?
That is my opinion. But if we've got anybody that's over there in Hendon right now, and you've got one of those rulers that pull out, if you want to go measure it. Good luck to you, and why not?
So your opinion, Alan?
Is 9/11's the big footprint because of the roads in between all 7 buildings.
Happy days, mate. You're my friend for life.
No worries. Good to have you on. Hey, I'll probably get...
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks a lot. I'll probably get shut down now by some architect. I was the architect, and actually this is not true. Hey, I stand to be corrected, but that's where I stand. And if you have a different opinion, do share it with us. And that's what Night Owls is about. Get a bit of crack. Why not? 01914883188. Going to one of my favourite places in all of Great Britain. Oh, yes. I'm talking to Heather, who's in Glasgow. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Alan.
Hello, darling. What can we do for you tonight?
Well, you had a post on your Facebook page a little while back about bad accidents.
Yes.
Because
we're usually responsible for them.
Well, I've got 2 that I'd commented about.
Right.
So I just thought I'd share them with you, if that's all right.
We're happy to laugh at your problems. Absolutely.
Wait, the first one was when I was 17, nearly 18. I was out with friends. We'd been out to the cinema.
Right.
We're heading back home, and we come to this hill. Top of the hill, loads of trees at the bottom of the hill. We're like, right, we'll get down the bottom of the hill. And I said, the quickest way to go down the bottom of the hill is to run. If you start going too fast, head for a tree and it'll stop you.
What?
So I run straight into this tree. That's not what hurt me. I slid round the tree and proceeded to fall down the rest of the hill.
Oh, not
Head over heels. I landed at the bottom on my bum.
Right.
With my arm up in the air, screaming in pain because turns out it was the worst dislocation of my elbow that the hospital had ever seen.
For those people I've had a dislocation just of a thumb. That's, I mean, in comparison to an arm, it's a nothing. But one of the most horrific pains I've ever suffered in my life.
Yep, it was blooming painful. If you imagine your arm at a right angle, where the lower part of your arm's meant to be was actually halfway up the upper part of my arm.
And did they jerk it back in again?
They had to knock me out to do it.
I was going to say, because that would be just
excruciating. Couldn't do it when I was awake. It was too difficult. So they had to put me under.
Yeah.
Put it back in again.
That's just, that's not funny at all.
Wasn't.
And yet they're the kind of things that everybody used to do. We used to have a hill that we called, and the clue is in the title, we called it the brick field because essentially there's so many bricks on the land, but you could get down to the bottom where the brick field was by going down the slope. The slope had a little bit of grass on it, and everybody used to get like a bin bag, and you'd sit on the bin bag at the top, and somebody'd launch it off, and you'd just go, and you'd land eventually on the field, the brick field. However, what they didn't tell you was there was corners of bricks in the side on the way down that would cut a hole in the in your bin liner, cut a hole in your trousers, cut a hole in your bottom, as if we didn't already have one, and then you'd get down to the bottom and somebody say, "Have you seen the back of your trousers?" And hello, how do you explain this to your mother? You know?
Yeah, well, I had a fair bit of explaining to do with my parents as well when that happened.
I can imagine, because your arms just put your arm down.
I can't.
That's over. What was the other one then?
So the other one, it was my 40th birthday party.
Oh, brilliant.
We were having a ceilidh, living up in Glasgow as I do now.
Brilliant.
So I had this big, burly, 6-foot-tall rugby player swinging me around while my husband's playing on stage with a band.
Right.
Next thing I know, I try and put my foot down, and I can't. And the back of my leg had hit a step that led onto the stage, and I'd ruptured my Achilles tendon.
Oh, jeepers.
I didn't even feel it happen. Didn't feel it, didn't hear it pop or anything. Sometimes apparently you can hear it pop. I just knew I couldn't put my foot down, and then I felt the pain. I think the alcohol had numbed it a little bit, but that was more painful than the elbow.
I've heard somebody's tendon go. I don't want one, and I think you find most people don't. But I have been playing football when somebody's and it is like a big. Multiply that by 30, and you go, "What the hell was that?"
Yep.
And the guy came running on and says, "Oh, I think your tendon's gone," and you see the guy's just got a jelly leg essentially.
Yep. You just can't put your foot down. You can't put any weight on it or anything. You can't move your foot or anything.
So how long before they put you right again? I mean, how long does it take to get you walking properly again?
I spent 6 weeks in a plaster cast, and then another 6 weeks in one of those big boots that they strap onto you. I ended up 12 weeks off work because they wouldn't let us in with my crutches because I was health and safety risk.
Right. Was that a good thing? That sounds not a bad thing, that.
12 weeks lying on the settee with a dog for company.
And, well, it's good and bad. I would imagine the first couple of weeks you think, hey, this is all right. But by the fourth week, you'd be driven.
I went through quite a lot of box sets on Netflix and now TV.
I could imagine. What's life like living in Glasgow then, Heather? Because it's one of the obviously living on the borders. I like Edinburgh. Edinburgh's very nice. It's very, very Edinburgh. It's not remotely Glasgow.
No.
It's very Edinburgh. But when you go to Glasgow, it's the nearest thing to the northeast, I think. Anywhere because people say Merseyside's a bit like the northeast. It is a bit, but I think the place in Britain where it's the nearest match, I would have said was Glasgow, because a bit of a rough past, trying to rise above it, and they've created some amazing things. What's it like to physically live there?
Oh, it's brilliant. I've been here 25 years now.
Oh my goodness, that's great.
I love it up here. The people are so friendly.
Right.
They are so much like the Geordies as well. They're really friendly. They'll help everyone and anyone. They'll come out and help if you need help. You get some right rough characters and some real diamonds.
Yeah.
Some real characters.
Some rough diamonds. It's funny because when I used to go, and I used to go probably 25, blame me, it'll be 30 years ago. I used to go because it was rough, and that sounds a ridiculous reason to go, I do understand, but used to go because it was rough and it was kind of edgy. Yeah. And that made it different from any other place. And I used to get on the train and pop along and go down Buchanan Street and see what they had for offer. And usually buy like a fancy T-shirt or something, and then just make your way home. And I've had a successful day today. But it was rough, and you had to be careful where you ate and where you drank, and there was certain areas you wouldn't wander in later on at night. But since they've pumped all that money into it, it just seems to be right the way from one side to the other. You'll know the place. If you go at the bottom of Buchanan Street and turn left and keep walking, that was always quite a rough bit down there.
Aye.
But it isn't now. It's full of shops and full of tourist apartments and all that kind of thing. They've really done a good job, I think, in Glasgow. Yeah,
done a lot of regeneration. We love it.
No, I bet. And how did it take to a Geordie on the run?
Oh, they love the Geordies, actually. They consider Geordies almost Scots.
Right, that's what I've found. That's what I've found too. They're prepared to accept us.
Oh yeah, I'd say so, definitely. I married one and got accepted into his family straight away. So
brilliant.
Never had any problem.
No, happy days. Hey, well, thank you for sharing. Are you back in perfect order now?
Oh yes, it was a couple of years ago now, so I'm all fitting well now.
Brilliant. That's tremendous. Hey, well, thanks for joining us, Heather. All the best, darling.
Oh, no problem. Thanks very much, Alan.
Take care. Bye. And she brilliant. Heather, Glasgow. Blimey, I'm going to have to go there soon. I feel a trip coming on. 0191 488 3188. If you haven't been across, because I know a lot of people from the north seem to take a beeline up to I'm going to do shopping, go along Princess Street. I don't think Princess Street's changed in probably 50 years. I don't see any major changes there. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. But when we did our Scotland Week, you will remember, beginning early part of this year, for those of you that can remember our previous incarnation, we did Scotland Week, and we discovered the Old Town. And I've been visiting Scotland for years. I didn't even know it was there. I felt so stupid. How come I didn't know that there was another city, really, on the other side of the park, on the other side of the castle? And now that I know that it's there, it's one of the places that I've visited a few times since. Tell me your stories of travel, and if you want to dive in with a few accidents as well, we'll comfortably have them. You get your first clue for our competition very, very soon. And this Monday, we say no Blue Monday when we're playing your request. Just the happiest and most uplifting songs. It will not be a Blue Monday. All day tomorrow on Greatest Hits Radio. If you want to feel boosted and get a kick, that's what we're going to be aiming to do tomorrow with you. Michelle is with us in Gateshead. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Alan. How are you?
I'm all right, me love. What can we do for you?
Oh, can I just say I'm really glad you're back, and I love the Grizzly Tales as well. I've been listening to it all the time. I love it.
That's brilliant. Good. Thank you.
Just talking about the best jobs, my best job had to be working at Metroland.
My goodness, what were you doing? You weren't the woman on the Basham Mall, were you?
On the what?
Basham Mall.
I can't recall one of those, no.
It was just as you went in, on the left-hand side, smack a mall or bash a mall. You know, you just had a hammer, and the mall would pop up.
That must have been before my time. Maybe,
all right, that's it. Oh, so what were you doing in there then?
Well, it depended where they put you, really. But
right.
I used to wear the costume a lot. They'd either put you in the wizard or the dragon. But you had to be careful in the dragon because you'd forget that you had this big tail and you used to swing around and whip people with it half the time. But the wizard was easier to wear because it was a bit lighter. But it depended where they put you, really, because there was so many of us working there right. over the years. I mean, you're talking some time ago now. I was like 16 at the time. Yeah. I'm nearly 40 now. So it's a lot. It was a long time ago, but it depends on where they put you, like what rides they put you on, or they could put you like on a rotation so you could cover people's breaks. But right. mostly you were kind of just on the rides or driving the train around.
It's not the worst way to spend your day, is it? I don't suppose, seeing all the kids happy. Because the one thing about the Metroland, I thought it was one of the things they should never have taken out of there.
Oh, never. It was so sad when they got rid of it because it was like a one-of-a-kind place, you know, and I think it just got to the point where it was just so quiet through the week that it just wasn't, they didn't really feel, you know what it's like if it's not bringing a lot of money in, they just kind of think, oh, well, and, you know. It's
all about the money.
It is, unfortunately. But it was one of a kind, and, you know, it's missed by a lot of people, I think, and you see old photos pop up and it's quite nostalgic and you think, oh, you know, it was such a fun place to work. It didn't even feel like work, really. So.
No, I mean, for me, it was one of the places where occasionally you'd have to do a gig and they'd put a little stage up next to that roundabout that spins people around in the air.
Oh, the swings, yeah.
The swings. So I'd be on stage and I'd be getting people up to dance or to sing or to do something stupid usually. And the swings would go around, and every now and then a penny or something would hit you on the head, you know, falling out of people's pockets. Or
honestly, we used to find shoes in the pond and everything, and honestly, the amount of people that would lose stuff from the you just see things flying through the air, and you'd be like, "Where's that come from?" And it was usually the swings, yeah.
Because you know, I'm thinking, you know, being skeptical. Somebody's throwing coins. Why would they throw coins? We're just having fun here. And then you'd look around and you'd see the clang on the floor and keys and all kinds coming off it. That was funny.
You'd see everything, But I remember the stage because we used to get a lot of bands in, you know, before they were famous, like Boyzone and everything, before everyone knew who they were. And it was fun, you know. I worked there for about 5 years, but I made some of my best friends there, and it was so much fun, you know. It wasn't like a proper job, it was just fun.
I see that, and I also get the fact that, well, during the week it's probably not going to be so busy. In a way, that's kind of the joy of it, because you know you can go, you don't have to queue, you can get on everything you want to go on.
Exactly. I mean, Saturdays and Sundays were just crazy. I mean, from the minute from the minute that shutter went up at the main entrance, there'd be queues all the way past. I mean, there was a food court there back then. That's all gone now. But the queues would be all the way down there. And you'd be like, oh my gosh, you know, and obviously the queues on the front for the rides would be crazy. But it had such a sort of atmosphere, and everyone was having fun and enjoying themselves. And it was just a right laugh there, you know. I mean, every day was different. There'd always be some kind of drama, you know, but it was fun.
I mean, even I got sucked into that because you had a bowling alley in there as well.
Oh, yeah, the bowling alley was downstairs, yeah.
You had the bowling alley downstairs. You had
It was next to McDonald's downstairs, yeah.
That's right. So if you wanted someone to eat either upstairs or downstairs, you had the bowling alley as well. If you had somebody with you and you just wanted to do the I'll win you a cuddly toy for I am a man and you're a woman and I shall make you proud. And then you'd go upstairs and try until you were poor. To try and
kids, yeah. They just had something. Then they had the soft play area as well, the other side for all the young kids, you know. But yeah, it was just fun. And we as staff, like if obviously some kids had to be a certain height to go on certain rides, so if they didn't have adults with them, we as staff, if we were free, we could go on the roller coaster and stuff with them. It was great, like as the accompanying adult, you know. But, yeah, it was just fun. But you did used to get, like, if you were walking around in the costume, you did kind of, it was hard to see at times, and you kind of have people picking at you and prodding you, and you'd be like, where's that coming from, you know? But yeah, it was just fun, you know. It's such a shame that they got rid of it. But
I'm just surprised that you liked it to the degree that you did, because I remember a story from the Metro Centre, and I can't remember what year it was, but I think it was coming up to Christmas, and some nugget had decided they were going to plant Postman Pat in his Postman Pat suit, and somebody just got up and punched him in the face, although, you know, through, I don't know whether he even hit face, because Postman Pat's face was about a yard tall in this suit. So I don't know whether he actually hit him, but he knocked him on the ground, and a few people took pictures of it. It was on the front page of the Chronicle, and because there's always a spoiler, isn't there? Wherever
there's always one. Yeah. There's always one. But we used to kind of just we'd walk around the park for a bit. Then we'd venture off into the Metro Centre, and you know. But I mean, you know, it was most people left you alone. But I think a couple of times people, if they were in the costumes, a couple of times people got jumped on and stuff like that. But you always had someone with you to kind of keep an eye on things, just in case you got ambushed or anything like that. But apart from being heavy and a bit hot in there, especially during the summer, the costumes were great because you know, you could just dance around and do whatever. But yeah, it was such do you know what, it didn't seem like a proper job. It was just like goofing around with your friends, and you know, and there was some really good a good bunch working there, and you know, there was a lot of staff obviously over the years working there. Like people used to come and go over the years, and but it was, you know, it was a good bunch. It was fun.
Well, I mean, they've got the last time I was at the Metro Centre, it wasn't that long ago, was they've got the little train now that drives everybody up and down. Yeah,
that nearly knocks everybody over.
I was walking, and I genuinely felt they're pursuing me, this train. And then you start walking a little bit faster, because it's not the fastest train in the world, and you're not going to get run over at any point. But I was just walking in one direction. I got to the end, and I thought, oh, hang on, I'm going to have to go back. I want to go to W8. So I start walking back, and the train just swept around, and then came back behind me. I'm thinking, hang on, this isn't fair.
It's following me.
This is not right.
There's no sort of track for it, is it? So it just kind of does its own thing and go. I mean, at least the one we used to drive in the Metro Centre, in Metroland, you used to follow a track, obviously, but the amount of barriers that we all broke as well, because if the track had been oiled, you used to have your sort of stopping points where you would take your foot off the accelerator and it would slow down. But if the track had been oiled, it would just keep going, and occasionally you'd crash into the odd barrier, and the maintenance staff were always like, oh God, another barrier gone, you know.
Right. Brilliant. It sounds fun though. It does sound the right laugh.
Oh, do you know, it was fun. And, you know, we'd do a little checks on the morning and stuff like that, and you know, you had to make sure everything was presentable, and you know, it was just fun. It wasn't hard or anything.
Well, we've got your best job. What's your worst job then, Michelle? You done a worst one?
Do you know what? I don't think I've had a worst one, you know. Really? I really don't. I've been quite lucky, to be fair. Yeah, I work for an airline now, so I fly all over the world. So, but Metroland was like my first proper job, as I think for a lot of people that age. But yeah, I fly now, and that's been my life for 16 years now. But
fantastic.
Yeah, I don't think I've had a bad job, to be honest. I think I've been really lucky.
No, it's tremendous.
Metroland's definitely the favourite one. So
traveling the world, though, is good. I mean, because that's, if you think about it, if the worst thing that happens is you're going to see a new country or a new city or a new place, because you'll get the odd stopover here and there, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, we'll get at least 1 night, 2 nights for it's all long haul, so it's further away you get 2 nights. So yeah, we'll get some decent trips. Yeah,
fantastic. Well, keep on keeping on. I know, wonderful. Lovely talking to you, Michelle. Thanks for coming on, darling.
Thank you, Alan.
Cheers. No worries. Bye bye. How about that? She hasn't had a worse job, and I always thought, travelling the world, and I've been lucky enough to do a fair bit of that over the years, and I've even had a few free trips from companies travelling standby, they call it, where they let you on if you're prepared to wait, and if somebody doesn't make the trip, rather than have an empty seat kind of thing. Done a couple of them in my time, and it's super fun. Somebody rings you and said, "Oh, we've heard that there's going to be about 4 or 5 seats on the plane. Do you want to go to wherever it was?" And the answer is always, "My bag is packed. I'm on my way." If you get the chance. Because I do genuinely believe that travelling and I know people kind of pontificate about it. Oh, travelling expands the mind. I just think it teaches you about life better than any books or any TV programmes ever could. You just get to know that people are the same wherever you happen to go. And you've got an entire world telling you that that's not the case. And it absolutely is. 0191 488 3188. Paul from Wallsend is up next. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Alan. You all right?
I'm good, mate. Thank you very much for giving me a call. What can we do for you tonight?
Well, it's just about the ghost car.
Oh, you're that Paul. I'm just twigged who you are. Gotcha. Amazing.
I was absolutely blown away when I heard the podcast. I mean,
yeah,
I just couldn't believe it.
Amazing, you know? Absolutely amazing. I mean, I've found since then I've kept looking, and I've found 2 or 3 other stories kind of around that. 2 of them, though, are not matching what we dealt with. One says that there's apparently 2 male figures sitting together in a car that they think is either a BMW or an Audi. Because we were talking Mercedes, weren't we?
Yeah, definitely Mercedes.
Definitely Mercedes with you. But apparently there's a few people said that they've seen a fast-looking car, they think BMW or early edition Audi, with 2 figures in them. And on 2 separate occasions, people who don't know each other is the most interesting thing. They've both seen this vehicle, and the vehicle just disappears with the 2 people in them. And it looks like the 2 people are fighting each other. You know, they're like struggling with one another. And then the car disappears. So I'm on the track of that one at the moment to see, well, who was it? Did it really happen? Because did it really happen there is another part of the puzzle, I suppose. But when I started looking into it and, you know, using the various people that I can to get police information and what have you, I was just stunned that there was already a catalogue of stuff written down about, you know, these kind of things. So it made it pretty easy for me to put the whole thing together. I would imagine your ex-girlfriend would have been blown away as well when she heard.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, it's sort of like, it sort of vindicates it, you know, that other people have seen it, you know.
Sure.
It was just amazing, you know, because, you know, I always wondered, you know, who was it?
Right.
What was the story? But, you know, to find that out, I'm still absolutely gobsmacked, to be honest.
And it's a really it's a real super sad story in the grand scheme of things as well. It's just, to me, I just felt, out of all of the things that can happen, to have something kind of recurring. You know, people say in Otterburn, they say, oh, once every year you see the Battle of Otterburn in the sky with all the troops fighting one another.
Yeah,
it's usually something really miserable, But the modern day version is there's people trying to find the people that they love behind the wheel of a car, and they're searching to try and find who hurt their husband.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought it was somebody like, some kind of accident or something. Like it'd been a car crash or something like that. But to find out, what had happened, it's even more heartbreaking. Really, it's
absolutely.
It's such a sad story, but I'm just absolutely gobsmacked. I am. I mean, I'm glad that other, it's not just me and the ex-girlfriend that's seen it. It's other people have seen this as well.
But it seems like the thing that makes it more grabby as a story that's real is because the people seem to have seen exactly what you saw.
Yeah,
it wasn't like, well, no, it was a taller person, a fatter person. They all seem to have said essentially how you described it. Yeah,
the woman, yeah. It's like I say, Alan, I'll never forget her face. I mean, honestly, it was, it's just one of them things that I'll honestly never forget her face. Yeah,
it'll stay with you.
Just staring straight through us. It was. But like I say, it's getting on a bit now. Like, I mean, many years ago now, but I still remember it as if it was yesterday.
And the funny thing is with stuff like this, though, presumably the people that you've told, they're all thinking, yeah, of course you did. Oh, well, never mind. And because they do treat you in that kind of offhand manner. And when you realise all this has actually happened and other people have seen it too, and it's run and run and run, literally. And it was interesting because it was around about the time that the car was first released on the market, around about that time. So if just the whole thing to me fit into place, and it was like, this is ridiculous. If everybody who's ever seen a ghost could be sorted out as quickly, I'd be well happy. Usually you hit a stumbling block and you can't find the information, and the people that could tell you, they moved 5 years ago. It's always that kind of thing. But this one just hit lucky. So thank you for coming on and telling me in the first place.
Oh no, thank you, Alan. It's been one of them stories I've wanted to talk to you for a long time about, right. And it's just sort of, and just to find out what, if anybody else had seen it, and it's just fantastic that,
Boom.
Yeah.
Boom. And it's on podcast for anybody who has. If you didn't hear it, you can do that. And I think we've also put the actual original call with you somewhere too. I'm not quite sure, but Tony, I'll find out where Tony's done that, because because putting the two things together makes absolute sense to me, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Definitely. But
good stuff. Thank you, Paul.
Right, thanks very much, Alan.
No worries, good on you, and thanks for bringing it to our attention. Because if people don't, that's the whole point of Night Owls. You tell us your stuff. If we can help you, we will. Going to take a very quick break and then a little brief chat with Belinda Carlisle.
The voice of the North.
Alan Robson's Night Owls. The phone-in that gets you talking.
Greatest Hits Radio.
And don't forget that we have Rossi back in the morning with the Morning Mouldy Mystery Oldie. And we can tell you it isn't Frida Payne's Band of Gold. It's not House of Fun by Madness. And it's not Mouldy Old Oh. Blimey, I haven't heard that in the longest time. Lieutenant Pigeon. All wrong guesses. And we got £2,440 waiting for your back pocket. Give it a listen if you fancy. And it is time for me to give you your first clue that could win you one of the current top DVDs and a few CDs as well. And don't forget, just for ringing into the show, you could get yourself a Night Owl mug. Okay, just for ringing in. If you ring in, everybody goes into the hat and somebody will win that mug. But to win all the CDs and the DVD and what have you at the end of the show, I'm going to give you 4 clues. You've got to put the 4 clues or the 4 answers together and tell me what they all have in common. The first clue is you can't get electrocuted if you've got one on the bottom of your shoe. Okay, What's that? You can't get electrocuted if you've got one on the bottom of your shoe. 3 more clues to come. And we're very fortunate, for I've been lucky enough to talk to a squillion superstars in my time. And when you've got one with the most beautiful chin, I don't know whether you've ever noticed Belinda Carlisle's chin, but it is just wow. You are hypnotised by chin. You really are. Not in a Jimmy Hill sort of way or a Bruce Forsyth sort of way. She's just got the cutest chin. And I asked her about, stuff. What's the worst thing that's ever happened to the Belinda Carlisle body? Accidents, operations?
Oh, God, you know something? I was in the hospital, and a lot of people don't know this, but I was in the hospital in London for 12 days because I was on my way through the airport. Living in France, I went water skiing in the morning, got on a plane to go do promo for the album A Woman and a Man, and then I was late for like a TV thing, and I was running to the airport with a big bag on my forearm and a big bag on my shoulder.
Right.
And then a couple hours later, I started feeling funny, and I was funny enough where we went to the hospital, which I normally don't, and the doctor said nothing's wrong. You slept on your side wrong. Next morning, I woke up and my hand was 5 times the size and purple.
Wow.
And I went to the hospital, and I had a blood clot in my underneath my arm and in my forearm, which is really dangerous.
Could have killed you.
So they kept me in bed, and I was supposed to be doing promo for In Too Deep, and kept me in bed, and I was hooked up to a machine for 12 days.
Wow. That's a scary thing. Embolisms, we hear about them travelling on planes and stuff. We hear about them and we don't take them seriously, but when they happen, they hit you hard. What are you frightened of? You got any rational or irrational fears?
I have a phobia. The only phobia I have is flying into Nice at nighttime because, weirdly enough, my plane going out once and going in once to Nice at nighttime has been struck by lightning.
Wow, right.
So, and it's happened twice, which is really rare. So I don't like fly over France at nighttime, and I don't like flying into Nice at nighttime or flying out.
Gotcha, right. Ever seen a ghost or had a strange spooky experience of any kind?
I saw a ghost when I was 17.
Oh, what was it?
It was in a little hotel in Paddington, 17 or 18. And it was my first trip overseas, and I went to London, of course, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and it was holding me to the bed, and it wouldn't let me scream, and it was trying to choke me, and I could see it. It was like sort of like a fog, and I could see through it. It was moving. My friend is screaming, it wouldn't let me scream. Wow. And then I don't know how long it went on for, but it definitely happened. And it was weird because I saw a BBC special on the most haunted places in the United Kingdom, and one of the scientists was just describing the exact same thing that happened to me, and I said to my husband, see, I'm not crazy. It definitely happened.
No. And don't forget, if you want to take part in the show, but you don't necessarily want to call in, you can always text the word Alan, A-L-A-N, plus your message to 61054. 61054, and you will get through to me. Already got a few people who've already done that. Ben Mabon. Best and worst job. Best job was working in an old folks' home. Worst job, working in a school as a teaching assistant. Blimey, how do you get any kids to pay attention in this day and age? And Chris Wright sent a message last week that I didn't respond to, and my apologies. It got lost in the mix. We found it the day following. Hi, Alan, from an exiled Geordie in France. Sad to hear about the night owls and the changes. Hope you return somewhere soon in a similar format. What you do is important. God bless you and the listeners. Good luck. I think we've told him that we're back on because it's what we would do. And also, when you start your show every week, you start off with Daryl Way's Little Plum. What's the other piece of music that you talk over straight after? Well, it's a bit of music that was written and designed especially for us, so I don't have a title. However, I will make a few enquiries. And also, do you remember we were talking about the Iranians shooting down that aircraft? Chris Black is arms expert, and he says a few years ago the Americans accidentally shot down an Iranian plane. It was covered in detail on the air crash investigation documentary series. I love stuff like that. And here's the Wikipedia. And that's just Chris the Truck, who is into all of that. And he came back with another one saying, here's a website dealing with the UK's air defence structure. The threat that Richie was asking about, because he's saying, do we have missiles just pointed at our own aircraft in case it turns, like the 9/11 planes did? And Chris the Truck says, the threat Richie was asking about would be dealt with by a fast jet response. They would identify the threat visually and then wait for further instruction from higher ups, presumably, before they took it out the sky. So how about that? And also, Mark says, a quick poem and a massive shout-out to this bloke. He's belter and should ring every week. So there you go. Thank you very much for that. There is no poem attached as far as I can see. And although there may be, just give me 2 seconds. Oh, there you go. Oi, oi, Savaloy. It's poo every night without the flashing blade, so we could start a fight, but this wouldn't seem right. We could start a dirty protest, but only Jean would be invited. So let's all ring Alan and get him on every night. And there's a picture of Wilfred Bramble, Steptoe, from Steptoe, and so it's making those arrowed kind of faces that they did back in the day. Let's just get as many of you on air as we possibly can, and let's rock on. James is with us. He's from Anitsford. Hello, James.
Hello, Alan. How you doing?
Good, man. What can we do for you?
It's about school. That's school.
Right.
My mother used to hit us with a pit of wood to get to school every morning because I hated it. That's just a start. And Mrs. Cuff was the worst teacher ever in this planet.
Why? What was wrong with Mrs. Cuff?
Oh, she had loads of belts, cat o' nine tails, some serious belts, but she had names for them, Bum, Johnny, and all that, right? You're going to get hit off him, you're going to get hit off, you know what I mean? And I used to get hit every day, Alan, man. But, like, what it was, right? Do you know them implements for, like, you screw a little pencil in and they've got a point on the other end to do circles?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going back to 1826 here, right now.
No, I understand, but they were like little metal things, and you'd put your pencil and you'd spin them round.
And they've got a point on the other end.
Gotcha, yes.
When my mate went and stuck my bum with one of them points.
Oh, compasses they were called.
That's the one.
Compasses.
Yeah, that's the one.
There you go.
And I went, oh, you B, in the class, you know. And she turned around and she hid because they had like a wood thing to weight the
duster.
boards, you know?
Yeah, the duster.
The dusters. Right between the eyeballs, now you knocked us out. You know, and I thought, all right. And and with my name being A, the last name,
yeah.
I used to be the first to get the injections in that.
Right.
And I used to go in, I used to come cripple. I used to go, oh, the needle's 2 foot long and all that, you know what I mean? And you're just going, I'll wait, you know?
Did your school do the same thing that ours did? Because, first of all, I would know that the letter was coming because somebody would open their letter to their parents before they got it home. So everybody's got the letter to take home. My mate would open the letter and say, oh, it's asking whether or not you've had this or you've had that, or have you had this injection, have you had that injection? So I used to fill mine in and say, oh, he's had them all, he's had the lot, our Alan, he's had them, and then fake my mother's signature at the bottom. So I wasn't getting injected into the 2 foot or the 3 foot long needle. But what we would do is we'd wait till everybody else had it, and then they'd come out and they're going, oh, and they're holding their arm. So you would wait until they put the hand down off their arm, and you'd punch them exactly where the needle was. Ah! That was funny. I mean, it was probably awful, but it was funny.
Yeah, well, I used to work on the weekends at a fish shop, and the fish shop was right next to the school.
Right.
So I took the wag from the school, and I worked for Tommy, Tommy Phillips. He's passed, but it was the best fish shop ever.
Right.
You know,
right.
with the newspapers, you know, for the fish and chips in. That was me, you know. And I used to do his tatties and everything. And it was about 11 o'clock, and I thought, all right, because it was freezing. I thought, I wouldn't have Tommy let us walk from in the fish shop because it was hot.
Yeah.
Because I was supposed to be at school. And I was walking in the fish shop. Who would come in for fish and chips? Mrs. Cook. And I'm going, no, man, no, this is, what are you doing here? She said, oh, no, man. And Thomas said, I thought you had your day off. I said, oh, no, I'm supposed to be at school, man. And she goes by the ear and she drugged us all the way into school. My ear was like beetroot red, you know. And I thought, well, that's all right. I thought I'll get away with that. I didn't, like, because when I got in, I got such a houting off him on fire.
Well, this is the thing, you know, you mentioned the board duster before, because there used to be dead shots with it. And even if they weren't even looking, they could hide over their shoulder, but they'd hit whoever they were aiming at, usually. And the way that my parents decided whether I'd behaved or not, the colour blazer that our school had, this was horrific. It was green with like a purple edge.
All right.
Which is not exactly what you choose for yourself, let's face it. But that was the colour of the blazer. And if the board duster, remember it was chalk, if it hit, there's no way you're going to get it off. You could soak it and you'd still have that square mark where the board duster hit you. So if my dad ever saw the blazer with a chalk mark on, which was fairly often, he would give me a good howking and say, what did you get that for? She accidentally hit me aiming at somebody else. No, she didn't. What happened? And then you'd have to go through it and either try and make something up, and he'd always see through it and give you a howking anyway.
That's it. She had the back of us, man. I couldn't understand it, mate. She was rubbing the with a rubber on the big blackboard, and she just tore her own head right between the eyeballs. But I was keep saying to more on fire. I was keep saying, I was about 8.5, 9. I was saying, damn man, I'm a bit too old now. Keep wearing shorts, you know what I mean? Wellies. Used to go to bloody school with shorts on. I was 9.
That's right. Yeah, I remember.
No.
Everybody used to go to school till about 8, 9, 10, and then all of a sudden, your first pair of long trousers.
That's it, right.
Glorious. But when you were still wearing shorts, and that was one of the last to change, and you felt such a dork.
That's what I was like.
Ah, dear.
I was going, way away, man. You know what I mean? But I say one thing about the punishments in schools at that time, the canes, your whips and all that.
Right.
I'm yet to meet anybody who had done any harm to them.
Right.
And I think they should never have stopped that.
Right.
Because it made you respect your elders and that. It made you think, whoa, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It was, anyway, that's
I used to get the strap a lot, and because we didn't have the canes back in my day. It was just every none of the female teachers seemed to have it. However, they would say, oh, we don't need it. However, if a lad stepped out of line and says, I'm going to send you along to Mr. Thompson, and he'd strap you instead, which was even worse. But no, I don't think that it did it do us any harm? Well, I don't think so.
Was Mr. Kate? I didn't want to go to him.
No,
because like they had the straps, you know, like where I got strapped every day. I've had the cane broke off us before. I've had the cane smacked in you know, it snapped the cane.
Oh, what?
And I'm going, oh man, how weird.
Because our woodwork teacher used to have this bit of bamboo, and the end of the bamboo was split in about 9 different ways. And it was about 10 foot long, this bit of bamboo. And he would, if anybody was acting up, remember, he did metalwork and woodwork. He could flick this cane. And what he used to do was he used to hit you either on the backside or from behind up between the legs.
Aye.
And there's quite often you'd see one of us rolling around the floor, hitting the clementines by this guy. But he just had the knack.
That's it. Well, Mr. Keane, you had a knack of hitting you on your thigh, on your back of your thigh.
Right, yes.
And all that went through you. You want to have it on your bum, not your thigh. Because I'll tell you, it couldn't work for a fortnight.
I just think that he must... Mr... what was his name? I can't remember the name. Mr. Bell. It was Mr. Bell, the woodwork teacher. I just think he must have been such a great fly fisherman, because with his cane, he could hit a testicle from 10 feet. I mean, that's and usually when they're kind of tucked up there, if you know what I mean.
And Mr. Kate, he was like the PE teacher.
Right.
Nice guy. I haven't got my PE stuff. He says, well, you're going to run in your underpants then.
Yes, we got
and I'm going, how are you having a laugh?
We were normally sent to this, it was like an old sports bag, and it had other people's shorts and stuff in swimming costumes that other people's bits had been up against, and we had to wear them instead.
That's what he had, but if he was just being funny, you know what I mean?
I bet you look great, your little Y front.
Oh, it wasn't very nice, like, you know what I mean? You know,
tremendous.
Stockings on and all these shoes on, you know, and I'm going, how where? You know what I mean? He dislocated my ankle, him.
Right, yeah. Hey, happy days. Great having you on, James. Thank you, mate.
Hey, have a good night now.
I will, mate. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
So tell me some of your stories as well. We want everybody's stories today. The whole school thing. Not just disciplined, having to write on a board while everybody else was out playing in the schoolyard and you had to write, I will not be, whatever I was being in class. I'm sure you did a bit of that. Did you ever meet a teacher after school? Did you ever do any of that? Ever have a teacher you fancied? I want to know all the stuff. Pick up your telephone. Chris is waiting. We're all nebby. 0191 488 3188. Piece of music coming at you, and it's a great one. Immediately after this.
This is the home of Alan Robson's Night Owls.
With the voice of the North.
Greatest Hits Radio.
Now, just before we have a chat with Gene from Reckington, who's just about ready to come on, can you remember back in the day we brought to you Bryan Adams at Gateshead International Stadium? We filled the place out. I was up on stage with a team of dancers having a lot of laughs. And the year before that, I'd been working with Tina Turner. Now, this is where it gets a bit juicy, because when I was with Tina Turner, I was talking about Bryan Adams, because they'd made a song together, had a big hit, and they were getting on really well together. Not dating or anything, but they really liked working with one another because they're both rockers a bit hard. So when I got the chance to talk to Bryan Adams, when I talked to Tina, I talked Bryan. So when I was with Bryan, I thought, let's talk Tina.
You have a habit, and over the years you have appeared on various things with various artists, and working with the likes of Tina Turner must have been a kick.
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, a kick is probably the exact word you should use for it. I did about 20 shows with her in 1985, and it was quite interesting because I'd support her. I was the support act, and I'd do about 45 minutes, then I'd go off, and then an hour and a half later she'd drag me back on stage, and she would be all sweaty and just revved up, and I'd already cooled down at that point. So I'd have to sort of stoke myself up like 15 minutes beforehand, to sort of get on stage. I knew she'd be a wild woman when I got up there.
You needed a set of jump leads. Is what you needed.
You needed a major jump lead.
But this is where I find it so strange that you've got this guy who's very much keeps himself to himself, keeps out of the glare of publicity if you possibly can, And yet, you quite often find yourself working with people that are the most over the top. And obviously, Tina's a wild woman, as you say.
Well, I mean, yeah, I've worked with some interesting characters over them. But again, I've always been attracted to people's talent by their voices. So if I work with someone, it's because I kind of like the idea of working with someone for their voice, you know.
I talked to Tina Turner about you, and she said that you are a sweet soul.
She said you must have got her on a good afternoon.
A gentleman is how she described you.
Yeah, I suppose I am. I don't know. We've had some good times together, and it was a long time ago that I worked with her. And I've written the odd song for her in the past, but you know, it was a good experience. It was a great girl, and I'm really, really thankful for her to introduce me to everybody here.
I'm not going to get into the Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Everything I Do, because that was massive for forever.
Yeah.
Just, I heard a story that you'd written that song originally for Joe Cocker to do it, and he decided not to. And
well, I don't think that's really the case, to be honest. At the time when we'd written the song, I wasn't sure, because I'd always shunned away from doing film soundtrack work.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I had this thing in my head that I would just I wouldn't do it. And then the next morning I woke up and said, "Well, okay, let's do it." You know. I mean,
you fickle rock star, you.
The song took an hour to write, and at the time I was traveling with a friend of mine, Chris, and I said, "You know, what do you think?" He said, "Just do it and shut up." You know. Okay.
Could turn that into a filthy joke at that point, but I've just stopped at the crossroads and I'm letting it go. Just letting it go. Get it past. Get it out there. And say hello to Jane. Hello, Jane. Hello.
I have fucking been my tonight. The lady got stuck in a lip. She's having a baby with a nurse. Nurses, but last week I was talking about you.
You're having a baby?
No.
Who's the father, Jean?
Shut up. I'm not caught. Please stop.
You're not.
Stop. I was watching Midwife on the telly.
You've got Nissan on the telly?
No. Midwife. Call the midwife.
Call the midwife. You want to say, Tony, call the midwife. Jean's having a baby. Call the midwife, Tony, quick. Get an ambulance to her, for heaven's sake.
Stop being so stupid.
Oh,
hey,
Tony's ringing them now. Don't worry. Don't you worry.
That's a false call. Don't be stupid. I was watching on the telly.
So you want me to call the midwife?
Yeah, that's a program.
It's a program?
Yes, it's on Sunday night.
Right.
The lady got stuck in the lip. She's having a baby with a nurse.
The baby gets stuck in a what?
The lady got stuck in a lift.
Oh, the lady got stuck in a lift, right?
Yes, it's on the baby.
Oh, that's my nightmare,
I started laughing. I was dead funny. I was thinking about you.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I'm most frightened at, and I know it's irrational and all the rest of it, but it's always that I'm in a, and I sometimes have bad dreams about it. I'm in a lift, there's a woman there, she's got a big tummy, and then all of a sudden the lift grinds to a halt, and she says, "Oh, I'm frightened," and I'm saying, "I will be out in a minute," and then the baby's, and I've got to bite the baby's umbilical cord. Oh! Ah! Horrible.
Oh,
I hate that.
I know. I got to stop her being late once.
Did you?
Yeah.
Naughty girl, naughty girl.
I stopped it on the hand.
Yeah.
I'm not hurt enough. I was late for school and got a strap.
I didn't think girls got a strap.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Well, I went to an old boys' school, so we didn't even have women to find out whether they got strapped or not. But I always thought that you were too delicate for that kind of thing.
I know.
No.
I got a strap,
Yeah, wow.
Oh, you're not hurt.
Yeah.
Wouldn't need again, no.
So what do you think about hitting kids nowadays? Because people say that they shouldn't do it.
No, they shouldn't do that.
So how do they punish them, though, when they're being nasty and unpleasant?
Because bouncing from school. Get them out of school.
Right.
Bouncing from school.
Yeah. But you see, if you ban them from school, isn't that giving them what they want?
No. No bouncing from school. Get a pensive one.
Right.
Get a pensive one.
Right, but yeah, some of the parents are as bad as the kids, so aren't they?
No going to parties, no going on that trips.
Right.
That's the system. No pocket money for 4 months.
Right.
There you are.
I always thought that the answer was if it was a bad lad,
Oh, aye.
you could nail their testicles to a coffee table.
That's very nasty.
Well, yeah, but they wouldn't be able to upset anybody else for a while, would they? That's the thing.
Oh, stop on the backside.
Well,
like, you know, stop on the bum, like.
It's just whenever I did anything wrong, my dad didn't half give me a sort now, you know, and some people now would be critical of that, but...
You used the belt on you, terrible, that.
Yeah, but I probably deserved it. I did some bad things. I mean, not bad things like I killed anybody.
No.
But, you know, I did some naughty things anyway.
The bad lad.
Yeah.
Really.
But I mean, it was normal that dads smacked the kids. I mean, that's how it was back in the day. No. How did your parents discipline you then?
I helped my mother. I closed off my mum. My dad helped us. I told him I'm shy spoken, didn't I?
Yes.
Years ago.
Yeah.
That's how police car from I ran into the Salvation on West. You know where it was? West Road.
Right.
I ran in there and I thought, come on, ladies, join in. I'm by Christian soldiers. and never had seen me going in.
Right.
And my mother came down. Mrs. Stewart, your Jane and Sally's in there.
Uh-huh.
And they said, what the hell are you doing? I get out. And when I got along off with that, a guy poking. And that's begging. I didn't know.
And I suppose he was doing it to try and protect you, though, wasn't he?
I back at this. Oh, yes, that's the way. But that money in the school collection.
Yeah.
Which I did. So they got on and off.
So did you eat at school dinners and everything? Or what?
No, some I did. Some I did. Not all of them.
Yeah, I was going to say some of them were downright. We used to get this pork and egg pie kind of thing. Any day that was on, there was next to nobody in the dining room because they knew it was like just sinful pie.
For the jelly stuff.
Jelly and all that. And occasionally you get a bit with one with maggots in. And it was, dear. So we kept away from that. But if we knew there was chocolate pudding with pink custard, we would be up for that, definitely.
Chocolate pudding,
yeah.
I like mince and dumplings, though.
Right.
I have mince and dumplings, were nice. Nice and brown stick. Nice. I had chips and something else.
Uh-huh.
I like fish and chips. I like fish fingers and chips. They're lovely. They're good ones. They're good ones.
Right, no, that's great. Anything else then, Jean?
Oh, yes, I got President Trump getting impeached today.
Who did he, what did he, to who?
President Trump. He's getting impeached today. President Trump.
President Trump, yes.
He's getting impeached.
Did he send a peach?
Did he get a peach?
He didn't send a peach to me.
No.
Did he send a peach to you?
Will you stop it? Stop it.
Well, you've asked, you said.
Get kicked out of
Jean,
office.
man, who?
He's getting kicked out of office.
Did he send a peach?
No. He's getting kicked out of office.
Nobody's being impeached.
That's what I meant.
Right. Oh, impeached, I see. Right.
Yes, you get cauliflower, yes. He stopped it. I next door went to give me the present, give me pants and that. And I lost in my right and that. And I can't say that. He said, if they could have done well, not. I know that stuff was that good. Oh, bloody hell.
Hey, you never know. No. You never know. Hey, but Jean, thank you very much for calling.
Linda from Barset.
Okay.
Hello, Tanya.
Right.
Hello, Clary and Richie.
Right.
Hello, that man. They said, you know, be a protest. They said, they should have had a one.
Yeah.
We should have had a protest.
Yeah, definitely.
Never know, might have, might a couple of days or something.
Lovely. Hey, well, thanks for coming on, Jean.
How's Jennifer?
Jennifer's fine. Thank you very much.
Oh, my God. No.
Right.
What do you think about Harry and Meghan?
What do I think about how? Well, I mean, I've never been out with them at all.
No,
so,
no, that doesn't matter.
So I don't really give a monkey's, quite frankly.
They do their own thing.
Yeah. That's it. The thing is, if I was a multi-millionaire, I wouldn't give a monkeys either. I suppose they don't, and they've got enough money to last them. So good luck, and they're paying all the money back. So happy days. We'll have that. Thanks, Jean. Bye. There's Jean. Wondering if Donald Trump sent her a peach yet. And Andrew is with us. He's in North Shields, I think. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Alan. How do you do?
I'm all right, man. Good to talk to you again. What you on about tonight?
I wanted to talk about my work at school.
Right.
Because I've only had 2 jobs since sixth form.
Right.
One was on a YOPS course. And the other was later with some charity, or I forget what they're called.
Right.
That gave me a few pennies for working.
Mm. Is this because of your health issues? You're not able to work normally?
I found that out when I was doing the work for that charity.
Right.
I was exhausted. Halfway through the day, I just wanted to sleep.
Right.
It wasn't a challenging job.
Right.
Was
that not something that you could have just got through? Because if you do something that when you're on your feet from 9 till 5, because let's face it, if you're not working, you're not doing anything really between 9 and 5. You're watching the telly or you're walking with the chippy, doing all the normal stuff. Is it not just something that if you'd have stuck at it, you could have conditioned your body to get used to being on your feet for that length of time?
I only found out I was unable to work.
Right, okay. They told you that, did they?
No, it was clear to me.
Right.
Yeah. Well, they did tell me that later.
Yeah.
But it was clear to me that I was nothing like the people who go to work and put in a full...
No, I understand. You had special requirements in your life that set you apart from others.
But I was on a YOPS course when I was... That's Youth Opportunities Programme.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 17, my school days were pretty abysmal, my childhood years.
Why? What was wrong with it?
I didn't have proper shoes and kit, and I was kicked every day throughout my middle school years.
Right.
So when I got the OPS course at 17, sixth form wasn't bad. I was kicked out of sixth form after a while, though, for not working.
Right.
When I got the OPS course at 17, I got a job working in a school in Newcastle.
Right.
With 12-year-olds. So it was a bit like seeing 12-year-olds as they are instead of being violent towards me. And it was great, good fun. I worked with a lady my age, 17, a busty girl called Linda Gray.
Right.
I haven't heard from since, but I'd love to know what she's doing now.
Right. Well, if Linda's out there, if she gets in touch, we'll happily hook you back up together again. Do you ever feel that you've missed out by not being able to work? And because when you work, then you make friends and you do stuff. Do you feel that you've missed out at all?
I've missed out on a lot, I suppose. I worked for. I did a lot of work in early childhood, so I listened to my own songs on radio and stuff, songs that I wrote.
Wow.
And I had some wild experiences in childhood, which you know of.
Sure.
Just spoken of.
Yeah.
And they have kept me going. But I've missed out on most of my life, and I've been on the cheeks of my bum for a lot of the time. And I'm now being injected in my bum for medication.
Oh, blimey. Why are they running out of other places to stick it?
I won't have it in my arms.
No.
When I was in my 20s, I exercised. I managed 80 press-ups.
Wow. Impressive.
And I could do that out here. but I haven't exercised since, and I'm in my 50s now.
Right.
I stopped exercising in my early 20s.
Right, right.
And I won't take an injection in my arms.
So now you're getting the injections in your bum.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
but can I talk about the Ops course, Alan, maybe?
Yeah, of course you can if you want.
Yeah, it was great fun. The kids, I was given a teacher's name at one point, and one of the kids kept on, he called Night Owls and said, I'd like a shout out from Mr.
Such and such, yeah.
Such and such, the library taker.
That's wonderful.
Which was nice.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's testifying that they got on with you and respected you. That's a nice thing.
Cat Stevens' daughter was in the school.
Uh-huh.
And I told her I was a Cat Stevens fan.
Right. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should be Kitten Stevens, I suppose. But anyway, Andrew, thank you very much. Glad that you got in with all the rest of us talking about school and stuff. Great to hear from you. Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Take it easy, man. No worries. Also, we're talking about jobs and your best job and your worst job and all of that. Had these sent in from Cliff. Thank you, Cliff. He used to work for the Inland Revenue, but he found the work taxing. He used to be a gamekeeper until he was poached by another company. He used to be a knit nurse, but the pay was lousy. He used to be a fisherman, but his net income was poor. Used to be a driving instructor, but got sick of being taken for a ride. Used to be a loan shark, but he lost interest. If you've got any of them, share a few of them with us too. Quick break, then we're talking to Annette.
This is Real Life Conversation with the voice of the North.
This is Night Owls with Alan Robson.
Call 0191 488 3188.
Greatest Hits Radio.
And Chris has just sent an email in saying, "Hi Al, surely the easiest way for Harry to leave the royal family would be to just take a DNA test." And he says, "I'm sorry I couldn't come on to talk about the UK air defence. I just wouldn't be able to talk with any authority about it. I merely Googled UK air defence and the website popped up. Plus, I'm at work. Cheers." And that's Chris the truck, currently heading south on the A1 near Durham. Get there safe and div not dunch, Chris. Thank you very much for that. Also, had a few more of those. I used to be, had a couple. I used to be an optician, but I kept making a spectacle of myself. Used to be a knife thrower until I decided to have a stab at something else. Used to be a speech therapist until I talked myself out of it. Used to be a mechanic, but I couldn't get motivated. And if you've got any more of them, do share them. That was Cliff coming in with a second batch. So if there's any more out there that you want to share, do. And very, very briefly, a second clue for you. Now, what you're going to do is work out the answers to 4 clues and then tell me what all of the answers have in common. The first clue is you can't get electrocuted if you've got one on the bottom of your shoe. You can't get electrocuted if you've got one of these on the bottom of your shoe. Second clue, if you want to move house, you put a sign up saying what? If you want to move house, you put a sign up in your garden usually saying what? 2 clues down, 2 more clues to go. Do not ring up and guess until you hear the 4th clue. And then you can come chasing our CDs and DVDs and all of that kind of stuff. They're waiting for you. However, let's dive across and talk to Annette. Hello, Annette.
Hi, Alan.
Hello, darling. What can we do for you?
I lost my partner on New Year's Day. We've been together 15 years and he passed away on New Year's Day.
What happened?
I believe it was septicemia, but we won't know for 10 weeks.
Oh, blimey, I'm so sorry. And you'd been together how long?
15 years. We've got a 12-year-old son together.
Oh, my goodness. I'm so sorry. Blimey, on a day where everybody else is building up to, you know, what are we going to do this year, and wondering about the year ahead, and that happens. My goodness, how's the band coping?
He's up and down. He doesn't understand it, and it's hard.
No, I bet. How are you coping?
Day to day, yeah, I'm all right. But Wednesdays, I can't cope with Wednesdays because it was a Wednesday that he died on.
Right. So it's like every Wednesday is an anniversary, isn't it?
Yeah,
I understand.
Say it all in my head.
Yeah. So you've been together 15 years. Sounds like it was a real, a perfect partnership.
He was brilliant. Mm-hmm. He put up with everything with me, with my mental health problems, the whole lot.
Right.
So,
yeah. You are very... You see, the way that I look at this is I know people that have been married or they've been with somebody for like 40 years. And for 20 years, they've hated the pants of them, you know, and they've just wanted to wish they weren't there, or they wish they were doing something else with someone else. For you to have 15 great years with somebody special, that's amazing, you know. You're very lucky. Some people don't get a year with anybody that they love. They go through their whole lives on their own, or falling from one lousy relationship to another. You've been lucky enough to have 15 years with the right person, and of course you got the band to show for it.
Yep, it's hard though, because
I bet
my other child's coming on Tuesday to his funeral, which he classed her as his daughter.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
yeah. You've got no choice though. You've got to battle on. You've got to try and get through this, and you know, because you've got mental health issues as well, it's probably harder for you to be able to see what other people can see from the outside, you know, and that is how strong you are. You sound strong to me. You sound like you're going to be able to get through this okay.
I didn't 10 years ago when we lost our son.
Right, but you did.
Only barely, just because he was there.
Yeah. No, I hear you. But the one thing he would want from you, if he could say anything to you, and I wish he was here to say it, but if he could say anything to you, it would be make sure that you look after the son as well as you can. And
make us a coffee.
And make us a coffee. And that sounds pretty much right. Oh, my goodness. But you've got to, and I know how difficult it is, and I can't imagine what you're going through is the truth, but you have to, for the sake of your son, start making Wednesdays not a dead day.
No,
you know, the thing is, he would want you to remember him with love and happiness and smiles. He wouldn't want you to remember him with tears, would he?
No. That's why I'm carrying through on the plans that we had.
Good. I mean, what plans did you have?
To move back down south where I come from.
Right, okay. Well, follow that through and make sure that you do.
Oh, I am. That's going to happen soon.
Good. In the meantime, though, you've got to start changing Wednesdays instead of them being days where everybody's miserable, and it was a day like this when you lost him. You've got to win that day back, because you can't have it that way for the band. You know, he can't think, oh, it's a Wednesday again, I'm really not looking forward to that.
He doesn't understand what that day is, because he's got problems himself.
Right. Yeah, but it would be better for you if you could face it with a smile and say, even if you use it I know you're never going to forget the guy in any case, but even if you use it to say, this is his day. How special was he? How lucky was I to spend 15 years with that man? There's other ways of looking at it. I just think it's not fair on the day that something bad happened, and we wish that it hadn't. Septicemia is an awful thing, and it can take somebody out in 24 hours, can't it? And
it took him out.
So what exactly happened on the day? What happened? Because it's New Year's Eve, you said. Were you heading for a party? Were you having some food in the house? Or?
No, I wasn't well over New Year.
Right.
It was New Year's Day when he took bad.
All right, I see. So did he go off to the hospital or?
Well, I phoned like 111 up, and
Right.
they told me to get walking from where I live to
Mhm.
bypass.
Yeah.
He couldn't do, and they said, "Oh, he just had the norovirus." Then he started showing signs of meningitis.
Right.
I knew about, and then so I phoned 999 up. Had to phone him back again because he showed signs for a stroke.
Right.
They got there, rushed into. Well, they got there, called another ambulance, rushed into hospital, and he was dead for 4:45 at night.
Oh, blimey. So it was that quick?
Yeah.
But no wonder you still feel robbed, because, I mean, blimey, we're only talking a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Hey, well, be strong. If there's anything we can do, and that goes without saying, and good luck with the move. Maybe that's what you need to shake off because all of the memories will be round here, of course, with him. That's the thing.
It's not the memories of him I'm shaking off. It's the toxic people that have been around at the minute.
Right. Well, hey, I don't know how anybody could be toxic to you at this time, but if they are, best you distance yourself as far away from them as possible. But love to you, Annette. Thank you for coming on. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Thank you, darling. Oh, what a damn shame. 01914 88 3188. You remember last week we had a lady who is in the process of going through something that is equally dark, and we wish her lots and lots of love too. Just having a conversation with Hollywood McShane, and he said that Mark Owen sang a song, and I said that Mark Owen sang some of the Take That songs, and he's saying, no, it was Gary Barlow. So I typed in, Take That songs not sung by Gary Barlow, and not much really came up that made any sense to me at all. I seem to believe that the song Babe, because I remember hating it with a passion back in the day, Babe was sung by Mark Owen. Now, could we have that confirmed? Because Tony says, no, Babe was one of Mark Owen's own songs. It wasn't a Take That song. So I don't know which is which, if anybody could help with that. So I wish Mark was here. I would ask him. But when he was here, I asked him about the highlights of his career thus far.
God, there's many. I mean, for us to be up on stage doing the Flood with Rob on 60 foot up in the air on the last time we did it, and you looked along the line, and I saw Rob and Howard and Jay and Gaz, and we're all looking at each other going, wow, we're having this, look at this, what we were doing here. I mean, there's moments like that and and people are singing back to you, and then the amazing thing is you can be up there, because we were quite high up at that stage in my life, and you're up there and you're singing, and you're looking down the line, and then you see going over the top like a load of birds might fly over the top, and you think, God, what must we look like to them birds? Like at the moment on the top, straddling this big bloke, going, hey, they must be flying past and going, how strange. They must be looking at us going, you don't see that every day. Actually, my little boy saw a rhinoceros. I took my little boy to a wildlife safari park, and a rhino did a big wee on the field, and he turned to me and he went, you don't see that every day, do you, Dad? and then maybe that's what the birds said to their mate, the other bird, as they were flying over, and they saw like us five all on top of this bloke. They must have maybe said, you don't see that every day, do you?
But I take that for you. And why not? Don't forget, you can text Alan, ALAN, plus your message to 61054. Hi, Alan. Hope you're well and that you and Jennifer had a lovely Yule. Thanks for the presents I won last week. And also, Alan, any chance you could bring the Grizzly Tales back? Well, the answer to that is yes. And we need more nights, obviously, to do all of the things that we used to do previously. On one night, it's hard to put everything under one heading. However, the Grizzly Tale and the Grizzly Trails are now a podcast. So every week there will be at least a podcast there. It says, I got a few tape, but I'd love to hear others. I've still got the Hand of Glory and a few from Sunderland. They kept me going when you were off the wireless. Great show as always. Michelle from Catterick, from the Garrison, just letting you know it was Mark Owen who sang Babe, but was he with Take That or was he singing just as Mark Owen? That's the bone of contention that we are yet to decide. And also, Barry, who lives in Prudder, says, I used to test drills in a power drill factory, but I found the work boring. I used to be a footballer. I just wasn't on the ball. I used to be a barmaid, but I decided I didn't have the right spirit. And I used to be a tailoress. I just wasn't cut out for it. There you go. So thank you very much for all of them. Lots of other, we asked a question about jobs. What's your best and worst job? Anne-Marie Harrison says, my best job, carrying out the psychological assessments for people going on reality TV shows. Worst job, cold calling for a double glazing firm at 17 years of age. It was soul destroying. Caitlin Cleland, my best job is my current one. I'm working in a hotel. Despite the crazy hours and the lack of sleep, it's a fun job on reception. Eddie Sargent, worst job was working in a cheese factory in North Yorkshire whilst waiting 2 months for my whole-time firefighters recruits course to start. Thank you for that. And, there's an awful lot of stuff coming in. Let me just rattle through these for you. Claire Louise, my worst job, working in Weatherspoon's kitchen. Hard work. Best job, what I do now. I sing around the North East clubs. Good on you, Claire. Matt Page, best job by far is singing on stage. There's no drink or drug that can match the buzz you get when you're on stage and the crowd is with you and singing back. It's amazing. My worst job was probably working behind a bar in Essex. You know it's a rough pub when the pensioners are coming in with black eyes. Also, Vicky Ovenden. Never had a bad job, but my best one was being a red coat in Butlin's holiday camp. Angela Mather, worst job cleaning up at a pub in Amble, having to clean behind the bars. Best job working in a charity shop. Alan Skelton, my dad used to send my squad down the poo tank to scaffold it out when we worked down the shipyards. Thought it was amusing. Enough said. Jack Sutton, best job is being a hospital porter. And Dawn Harwood Nielsen, working as a housekeeper at Marie Curie in Conrad House on Bentake Road from 88 to 95, then on to the new build on Elsick Road until 2015. And Margie Monaghan White, best job, a nurse at Disneyland. What? Worst job, fast food in the mall. Oh, there you go. A nurse at Disneyland? What, putting plasters, putting Mickey Mouse plasters on Mickey Mouse? How good a job is that? I don't blame you for having a blast there. And we've also got Anne from West Denton lurking in the darkness. Hello, Anne.
Oh, hello.
Hello, darling.
I've got me digital radio in a dab, but I was on another about from 10:30, but I got every station, Smooth Radio, Metro, the other station. I couldn't still get it, and I says, yes, I said, where is I've got, but he says try and get someone to help you, but the thing is, when I'm checking the hot picks on the telly, I can do all that sort of stuff, so I find it a bit stupid.
Right, okay, but I mean, you've got us now, haven't you?
Oh, I'll just phone you up, won't I, till I get sorted out.
So you should be able to hear. So you're not actually, you've got a DAB, but you haven't got us yet.
No, I know.
Oh, dear me. Right, okay.
The two subjects is, I was talking about auction for the meals to children, Indian, and now in the United Kingdom.
Yes.
Well, every time I put a bid on, which I like the stuff to get, beds, and all sorts, rubbish.
Right.
I raised about 10 meals up to now for the children, because every time you put a bid on your auction, I got it on my mobile phone, so I can do that.
No, that's great. Well done.
Oh, so everybody said, you're wasting money. I says, yeah. I says to the fan, mind your own business. I'll not keep interfere what I spend my money on, and I just says, mind your own business.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's down to you. It's nobody else's.
You think I was serious? All the way go on.
Yeah. And also, they talk to you like it's their money. I mean, you can do what you like with your cash.
And I don't argue. And the son says it's not to do with sisters. It's your money. What do you think? And what do you think about insurance? Home insurance? I'm not mentioning the company as usual.
Mm-hmm.
The certain one I had before this one, I put a claim in for the chimney. You know, something to do with the chimney.
Right.
But always wearing chair. Sorry, it is late.
Right.
So I cancelled it. You know what they've done? £133 I had to pay to cancel it.
Right, blimey, that's.
And if not, they would take us to court. So now I had to pay the £20 a month. So, so that's in the same company. That was the first. I've never claimed for these. I don't know why. I have insurance companies. I'm going to write a rip off Britain. Sick of it all. And the first one only just put the boiler, no boiler pieces, just put it right. And something downstairs had to be done and never done it. That was the same one.
That's crazy.
So bloody cheek.
Yeah.
So this one I've got now, I thought, well, my garden, I've got a few things for the garden. I thought, I've cancelled for the garden policy. So I looked at it.
Right.
And there was a lot of things in the garden what blew with the wind.
Right.
Only come to £100, so I got onto this company. And they said, oh, no, I'm sorry. You have to claim for claim up to £1,000. So I thought, oh, well, I was honest. And I says I just had about £90 worth of stuff.
Yeah, stuff. Yeah.
And so I couldn't claim. And honestly, they says no. If you claim for £1,000, you have to pay 200 access for all the insurance.
Yeah,
they're all the same.
Yeah, they are.
They're all bloody crooks.
They're all at it. You're quite right. You've got to be really careful. Really careful.
I know.
But you always are anyway. You watch yourself. You know what you're doing.
I know. And that's one of the people. Whirlpool washing machines are dangerous.
Yes.
And my friend's got one Interset. And they said to my friend, oh, you just have to wash your clothes in cold water.
What?
Yes, that's what they're saying now.
Well, but that's not supposed to. You're supposed to have hot water to get all your stains off and stuff. I mean,
know. I told her.
It's crazy.
She got a bit worried and that. So a bit worried because mine's not a Whirlpool, but they know they're dangerous and they're not calling them out again. Like the dryers, the spin dryers.
Right.
What a cheat.
Yeah.
But I miss all the talks about Tony and all that and what you do the papers with.
Yes,
Oh, but I'll get there. I'll persevere.
You do. Well, we're there. And you've got the right radio for it. You've just got to find us, that's all. All right?
What was the radio station called?
It's Greatest Hits Northeast.
Oh, I knew that.
Okay.
I might have skipped it tonight, mightn't I? That's all right then.
No worries.
Good night, then.
Thank you, Anne. Bye-bye. She's blaming. She's got a new radio so she can pick us up. And we're still not quite there yet. A lot of messages coming in about the Take That question. Thank you very much. I thought that was the case. Chris says Mark was lead vocals on Babe and Shine and maybe more, but they're the two I remember. From Chris, the roughy, tufty truck driver. Obviously not quite that roughy, tufty. Michelle, and yes, it was definitely Mark Owen, but as Take That. Michelle Scott confirming it. James, worst job. I used to be an undertaker, but I died on the job. Oh, dear. And Catherine says, genius idea last week to pair Jean and Linda. Dream team. Catherine, the email fairy. Thank you, Catherine. Always good to have a fairy on your side. And, yes, more confirmation about the Babe thing coming in from Michelle and also a different Michelle O'Neill, and also Lynn Lopez. Definitely Mark Owen singing a Take That song. Well, I think it's time, therefore, that we got into tonight's blah. Let's do it. And incidentally, do not forget, if you would like to talk about any of the topics that we're about to get into, pick up your telephone and give us a call. 01914 488 3188. That's not what I should have played. This is. What is the blah? Well, we're going to take a look at everything that is texting, what's tweeting, what's on the tip of everyone's tongue. And we are joined by producer to the stars, Hollywood McShane.
Evening.
And also Chris Felton from our Switchboard, presenter and backstage hero.
Aye, backstage hero. I like
There
that's going
you
to be
go.
signature. Like that.
Nee bosh. And we apparently we're putting forward the Robin Hood show for an award. Is this correct?
Yes.
How good is that?
Hot off the press.
I tell you, that's good, because that was a heck of a...
Oh, yeah, it was a great show.
Good experience. Right, okay, let's get busy. If you're ringing in at the present moment, obviously Chris is sitting in here, so give us 5 minutes. Anybody that does call, we will ring you back at the end of the blast, so have no worries about that. We're also starting, as we always do, with what's happening on the front pages of the daily newspapers that are going to be forced through your letterbox in the early hours of the morning. And this is what you can meet on your newsagent stands. Daily Express. Emotional prince speaks for the first time about stepping down. Devastated Harry. Why I had to go. What do you think? Thoughts?
Oh, well, if he wants to go, let him go. It's his life, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
It's
I'm
all
not
a bit.
really bothered.
I just can't. I never saw that coming a mile off. I didn't think anybody in the royal family ever left the royal family. I cannot imagine.
Well, one king abdicated for the woman that he loved previously down the line, and an American heiress who had divorced, so the royals didn't want the king to marry someone who was previously divorced, so he resigned and handed on the royal. So there is a precedent for it. Can I make a prediction? He will stay out of the royal family until a divorce. And then as soon as the divorce occurs, he'll be straight back in, bigger than ever before, and all the rest of it. That is my... Because I do think this is Meg-driven, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Or
You can tell.
he's on The Masked Singer, and we're about to find out who he is.
He's on them.
Could be that.
He's on them.
He'll earn a fortune anyway, though, won't he? So...
Well, he's got a fortune, that's the thing. The Times, what did they say? Royal fears over deals the Sussexes could strike.
They'll have their own mugs and tea towels and...
And also, cervical cancer on the way to being eliminated, which is going to be much better news than whether Meg's happy or whether she's not. The Sun, brothers end a 2-year feud, and Harry and Wills have got back together again. Harry and Wills' Meg piece, unrivaled royal coverage from the paper that broke the story. Yeah, okay. And The Guardian revealed how Princess of Angola built a $2 billion fortune when pretty much every other country in Africa is, pay poor. And how about that? And also the NHS, vaccine and tests could end cervical cancer, which is just fantastic news. Daily Mail, the Duke and Duchess of Netflix. After a hard Megxit deal, they want to set up a production company, and the TV giant is already keen to work with them.
So she's going to play herself in The Crown.
Possibly.
She's going in the show that's portraying her.
She's going to make a TV series, and is Harry going to be an actor then?
Fair enough.
They might just do a fly on the wall, and they follow you with all the cameras. And...
Hey, you would watch that as well, wouldn't we?
Well,
Bit of behind
I
the
think
scenes.
it would be a ratings winner.
Do you think? Would you watch that?
If it was just like, if they start filming now and watch the transition, I think it'd be quite interesting. Oh, we're skint. We're having beans on toast for tea.
I think, honestly, I truly believe that people that watch that kind of stuff anyway have a huge gap in their life for doing something else. But I couldn't be chewed. I truly couldn't be chewed. And Meg, I thought, oh, that's nice. They're getting married. He's marrying the woman that he loves. And then there was the colour question. Dum, dum, dum. Is there really racism in the whole thing? And some people said yes, and some people said no. If that's the case and they've just backed out and said, stuff you, absolute respect.
Yeah.
But I just think that she is dragging this guy where ultimately he's not... He's always been like an in-the-family type kind of guy. And even with the military stuff he's done, he's always been kind of in-house. So I think it's obviously her
But if she's having a hard time from the press, why not get out of it all? I mean,
Yeah,
they're not really fans of hers, are they?
There's an argument for that. Monarchy's changing face. This is the Daily Mirror. Harry, billion-dollar battle. And let's face it, they're not going to starve, so I'm not going to worry about them. Couple will make a fortune, but palace aides insist don't use the Sussex Royal brand. Row over who will pay the £3 million a year security bill after the big move to Canada. Well, it's going to have to be them. And Queen and Charles' sadness about Archie as the Prince gets ready to leave the UK this week. And we reveal luxury homes, schools and friends that will be part of their new life. Anything?
Well, I mean, good luck to them, I guess.
They're going to be the next Obamas, really, aren't they?
Well, apparently the Obamas rake in $250 million a year. I found that. I can
believe
that
it.
out
Really?
today. Yeah.
I
So
bet they're
they'll
not
probably
far-
be on par with that.
Not be far behind at this
Right,
rate.
right. I like Obama. I must admit that.
Oh, exactly.
Out of politicians in the last 50 years.
Bring him back.
How to do it with grace and style.
Why did he even leave?
Because he's only allowed 2 terms.
Is every president just allowed 2 terms? Oh, I didn't know that.
Daily Star, crime star under fire. Stormzy, slated for robbery. Bike theft, blag shame. Calls for police action. Copycat crime, fear. Do you know anything about it?
I think he robbed a pizza delivery guy's moped when back in the day. So he's admitted it and apologised. But
this is like not last Thursday.
Oh no, it's not recently.
Right.
But it's like, back in the
Let's
day.
dig out a story. Play me. We've all got stories you could go back and picture. It's just
Never nicked a moped.
Never nicked a moped.
Never.
You said that as if you've never lived. You've never lived in a moped.
Dale Deliveroo. Let's get onto it.
Yeah, but they're push bikes.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not the
Most
same.
of them. I've seen the odd motorbike.
But
They're getting faster.
Daily Telegraph. Charles is going to fund the Sussexes for a year. So his dad's going to pay, presumably, for the security. Because this leaves them wide open, for something seriously nasty to happen to them. The Independent. Hundreds injured in Lebanon protests. But the main story, 1 in 7 people who go to prison become drug addicts in there. 1 out of every 7.
Wow.
There's so many drugs in prison. Why don't they just go around with a sniffer dog every day?
I know.
And if that's up there,
Do you think they're just leaving it because they're
in prison, they don't
because they're
give
in prison, they don't care, and they're quiet when they're on off their heads or whatever?
I don't know either. But should you leave them? Or I just think a sniffer dog up the hoop every morning. That's enough.
For a dog, though.
That's but that's well, that's what they're trained for. But that would be enough to dissuade them, wouldn't it? Oh, blimey, yeah. Or ferrets. Could use ferrets. Well, that'd be worse, wouldn't it? Anyway, the Metro newspaper, a beautiful picture of Harry and Meg looking very happy. She looking particularly smug, saying they're out. And then there's a picture of the Queen with Prince Andrew standing behind her. Not many women would like him standing behind. But anyway, he's in because they're bringing him back into the fray, even though he said that he's out as well. So there's
had a rough time, hasn't
let's
she?
face it, there's no shortage of them, is there? They're not going to die out anytime soon. And the Information newspaper, cervical cancer screening upgrade, which is good news. And the Financial Times, Javid's non-alignment vow sparks alarm from Brussels and business. And what he said essentially is to all of the companies that before the election, Boris went around a lot of the big businesses like Nissan and a lot of the other factories saying, don't worry, we're watching you, we're looking after you, you're going to be fine. We're going to get Brexit kicking and you're not going to lose out. And now Javid said, well, what he said isn't true. We can't promise you anything. So I don't know where that leaves us. What do you think?
Scary. Well, it's going to happen soon, isn't it? The Brexit is finally going to happen maybe 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, isn't it?
And what they're also, the whisper is that Boris wants a no-deal Brexit. And everybody said, oh, hell's bells, if that happens, we're all in trouble. He wants to punish Britain for the delays, and if he's going to do a deal with Ireland, he's going to have to put more UK troops in court from things like the Sunday Bloody Sunday thing, which is horrific, because the peace thing over here, it doesn't seem like a big deal. But when the last guy went to court, I was actually in. In fact, we were in Belfast for it. And the people there were absolutely certain it was the best thing. Let's do it. Bring it back. And that's what we need. We need closure and all the rest of it. It's much closer to the heart over there than it is here. Anyway, let's see what you guys have got. Chris, what have you brought to the table tonight?
A lady called Jane from Newton Abbot has built a pub in the back garden for her husband. Because she's sick of him going to the pub every opportunity that he gets.
Right.
She's called the pub the Doghouse. And it's huge. It's like we're talking almost 2 standard sheds together, size. Inside, it cost her 20 grand. She invested 20 grand in this. It's got arcade machines. It's got a fully fitted out bar. And a big sign above it, the Doghouse with little bones. It's absolutely
nice.
Brilliant. I mean, what a thing to do. Stop going to the pub, bring the pub here. That's the only way she can keep an eye on him, clearly.
But he's not likely going to hit on the barmaid, though, is he? Do you know, this is the thing. Do you not think that going to the pub is not just, well, I'm just drinking, because you can do that in your living room.
He can't do it in his garden.
It's having all your mates around. It's
Well, that's it. We should have to foot the bill for the drinks now, then if all the mates are around.
You need bouncers as well. I bet she's kicking them out.
And
at
it will
11:30.
never shut, because
no.
it can stay open as long as you want.
Well, I
guess.
bet she's there. I bet she's cracking the whip. I bet she's calling last orders.
I was going to say 5 to 11. I bet there's an
No.
empty couple of sheds there. So what's your story then, Tom?
Yeah, well, it's the time of year when the gritters are on the roads, and Manchester Council have just got a big fleet, and they've been asking people to name them. So I just thought, do you name your cars?
I named a few. My very first car that I had a Ford Transit van to do like mobile discos and live gigs in when I was a kid. But my first proper car was like a 8 times owned Mini Mayfair that I called Errol, after Errol Flynn.
Right.
And then I realised that it wasn't really an Errol kind of car, so I changed it to Olivia. After Olivia de Havilland, the woman that Errol always snogs, because the car was obviously a woman. It wasn't. And the car that I've got at the moment, bless it, old and rusty it may be, but it's called the Beast.
The Beast, yeah.
And it manages to get me, thankfully, wherever I've needed to go so far, touching fake wood.
Well, these names are great. The public voted Snow Gallagher, Greta Thunberg.
Yeah, that's good.
She's got herself back in there.
Right.
Basil Salty.
Oh, I like that even more. That's brilliant.
Grit Astley. Spready Mercury. And Snowby Gone Kenobi.
Snowby Gone Kenobi. That's brilliant.
Good. We need some more of those, don't we? I bet there's some gritters out there with some cool names as well.
No, for sure. Well, we called the guy that we met when we were out one night doing something grisly and dark in Gateshead, and he pointed us towards a pork sandwich, which is always a good thing. True Grit.
True Grit,
if you
that's it,
remember.
yeah.
True Grit. Anyway, let us... well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Are we taking a break? I'm going to take a quick break, and then on the outs of that, we're going to play the song that we nearly played before when I pressed the wrong button. So that's where we are, and that's what we pretty much call the blah. Anyway, let's go and talk to Sue. She's in Sunderland. Hi, Sue.
Hiya.
Hello, darling. What you got for us tonight, then?
Well, Babe, you were asking about the song Babe?
Yes, the one about the pig.
No, man. The one by Take That.
Yeah, but it was about the pig, wasn't it? I'm sure it was about the pig, wasn't it?
No,
because he could
Alan.
round up sheep and everything.
No, Alan, man.
So what, it wasn't about the pig?
No, it wasn't the one about the pig.
Oh, what a shame. Should have been, shouldn't it, really?
Oh, it should have been, because I love Babe.
He was good. He's a bacon sandwich now, but it was good back in the day.
What a shame. I'll never ever eat Babe again.
Ah, dear. So it was definitely a Take That song, though. Definitely.
Take That song. Gary Barlow made it.
Right.
Wrote it. And it was Marky who sang it, and it was definitely a Take That song.
And it wasn't
Definitely.
about the pig.
No, it wasn't
Aye.
about Little Babe.
Same name as the pig.
Oh, no, I loved it. I loved that little piggy, me.
Brilliant. Hey, well, thank you for that. Anything else then, Sue?
No, Chuck, just...
no worries.
You're brilliant. I've listened to you for years and years.
Well, thank
and
you.
All the best stuff.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. Sue and Sunderland, yeah, we'll take that it was, and it's not about the pig, but I think every time you hear it from this moment onwards, you'll think it was about the pig, won't you? 0191 488 3188. And am I the only person that really loved the mace? The highlight of that film for me with the blind mace. I don't know whether, because what were they saying? It was Blue Moon. Brilliant idea. We got Rich from Stockton upon the Tees. Hi, Rich.
Hello again, Alan. How you doing?
Hi, good. What you got for us then? Dive straight in.
Yeah, I got a call back off you guys tonight. I sent a text, actually, so I was very happy to get on again.
No problems. Easy.
Brilliant. Yeah, what it was, I sent you a little text, and it was just, I've been here on the news and reading a bit more about, Greta Thunberg, the young and the Greens, and about doing away with carbon producing and all the rest of it. Yeah. And I just wondered, just all the people that are like complaining about it all the time, just for one day, there was no aeroplanes, like they said, right, we're not going to fly anywhere for one day, no planes, we're going to turn all the carbon-producing electricity off and everything. There's going to be no cars allowed on the road that produce it, any carbon fuel. What would happen if we just did it for one day just to show what would happen? If the prayers were answered for them all, what would actually happen, do you think?
Well, first of all, do I believe the government could even make that happen in Britain, let alone the world? I don't think so. I truly, because they couldn't organise a pee up in a brewery. But that's the same as many countries. There's a lot of countries that probably wouldn't be able to turn it around. I just heard that. I was listening to some documentary on one of the channels that we never look at, and it was about. But it's simple. Just plant 1 million trees, and they said that's all we got to do. Plant 1 million trees. Why don't we separate that around the world? Because this has got to be the easiest fix, if you think about it. How many trees has Britain got to plant? 100,000, champion. Yeah. We only need 10 countries to plant 100,000 trees. Sorted.
Well,
it sounds too simple to be true. And yes, of course, we're going to have to be a bit careful with the way that we produce things. The problem is we've got countries like China. Now, they're the third most powerful country on earth as it stands, next to Russia, number 2, America at number 1. We're 5th. And the Chinese at the present moment are going through something which is very like the Industrial Revolution that Britain had back in the late 18 into the 1900s. They've still got people burning all the fossil fuels for power. They've got them building factories using the wrong kind of stuff that's causing the atmosphere to be poisoned and such. But they're getting through it, learning from what the West did when they went through their industrial revolution. It's not changing much. You've got South America burning down forests so they can plant this, killing the very thing that's keeping the world alive. So therefore, if we're not going to have the Amazon jungle, which, if you think about it, has produced tablets, pills, medicines, potions, and there's still probably another 1 million to be discovered there, we have to replace it. And if that means we've got to go to South America and say, we want to buy all of this land and we're just going to leave it as trees, why not buy the damn thing? I mean, we've got enough money to afford it. The rich countries can afford those kind of things. You own the land, you protect the land, you make sure that no farmers can get in there and destroy it. It's just fixable. And I know Greta, sometimes I feel she needs a bit of a smack, but whenever I see her, I always think, shouldn't you be at school? And it may well be that she's talking sense, and she probably knows far more about it than you or I. ever will. But I wish you would just go back to school and learn about maths and history and all that stuff.
I see a lot of the critics saying is, why doesn't she go to China, who's doing all the polluting? You know, but I mean, why doesn't she go there and try and tell them?
Well, because they're not. First of all, they're not able to listen because their economy's not in a place where they could afford to do it any other way. You know, they're building like crazy all over the place. They're updating things as we speak, but it's still going to take 20, 30, 40 years before they're anywhere near, fully industrialising. And then they might be the world's leading economy. I mean, that's possible because they're moving at a speed. It's just in the meanwhile, we've got to do something about what we're wiping out, which is essentially plants.
Yeah, I just thought, if she went over to China as well, I mean, I've heard a lot of the critics say this, although they're really nasty about it. If she did go to China and took all the roadshow with her, all the people that go with her and everything and that, and made a really big publicity thing about it, I wondered if it would persuade China to try and do something a little bit more, if she took the fight like to them sort of thing rather than,
If they closed down some of their toxic style plants, because you got to remember we had these kind of things right the way up to the 70s, 80s probably. So it took us from 1890 to 1980. Took us that length of time for us to do it. The Chinese are working faster and quicker, but it's still going to take them 10, 15, 20, 30 years to get a handle on it. As I say, by which time they may well be stronger in world terms. I think they're aware of it. They're prepared to sign treaties, unlike Trump.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, even if Trump opts out, the rest of the world, just for our own well-being as human beings on a planet, we need to have more oxygen providers, and we've got to find ways to do it. Now, if you think about it, if you irrigate the middle bit of Australia, where there's very few towns, very few cities, if you irrigated that, and I'm sure it's not beyond our capabilities to build lakes and have massive oases across the desert. You increase the wildlife that maybe you've lost to the bushfires, because that's been terrible. And on top of that, you can plant trees as long as you irrigate them. So you need water plants transforming seawater into fresh water, but we have the ability to do that.
Oh, desalination, is that called?
It's called desalination, but it's possible. Yeah. So why don't we do it? And why hasn't anybody done it so far? Just, to me, we've got places where we could put trees. And look at, have you ever seen pictures of New Zealand?
I have, I've seen a few pictures.
Have you ever seen a picture of New Zealand that's not completely covered with trees in all directions? And it's on roughly the same band around the world as Australia is.
Yeah.
So why can't the middle of Australia become one of these new super forests that provides oxygen for the world? Because the Aussies would look after it, and they'd probably benefit from it there. You'd be able to have massive cities in the middle of what's now just desert and scrubland.
Yeah, I know.
We've just got to look wider than just, well, are we doing all right? Well, not really. I don't know about you, but I've noticed that instead of building huge housing estates on the old factories and stuff, everybody wants to get into the countryside. Instead,
I don't know why they don't do why they don't do that, because you'd think it would be cheaper as well.
Right, I absolutely get it as well. I'm going to have to take a very swift break, Rich. Stay where you are, because I know you've got other things that you want to talk about. One particularly, I think, about aircraft. So stay where you are. We'll be back with you to get your question immediately after this.
Call Alan Robson's Night Owls now.
0191 488 3188.
This is real life conversation with the voice of the North.
Greatest Hits Radio.
Now we are going to be talking to Rich in a second, and then if you live or you're anywhere near Easington, you've got a great reason to be incredibly proud. And I've put together a little something that I think you will like very much indeed. So get ready for that. That's coming your way in a second. It was something that I read in the newspapers this morning, and I thought, my goodness, surely there has to be something done about this story. And nothing was done about the story as far as I could tell. And so I thought, well, I'm going to have to do something about it. So I have. So get ready for that. That's coming. Again, just before Rich returns, time for your third clue. The first clue that can win you a DVD, very nice, bloodthirsty one. The Darkest Days, Heroes Are Made. A movie based on true events called Chosen. Plus, some seasonal CDs. Clue number one is, if you can't get electrocuted if you've got one on the bottom of your shoe. Can't get electrocuted if you've got one on the bottom of your shoe. Write down what you think that might be. Second clue, if you want to move house, you put a sign up outside your property saying what? You put a sign up outside your property saying what? And the third clue, a place in London with a very famous recording studio. A place in London with a very famous recording studio. So you got three clues. You're going to get a fourth clue in about 20, 25 minutes from now. So three down. Do not ring in till you hear the fourth clue, please. Meanwhile, Rich from Stockton is back. Hi, Rich. Oh, hang on a second. Hello, Rich. Oh, there you are. That's gotcha.
I'm still here.
Good man. Right, what else you got for us tonight?
Yeah, just carrying on from what I was saying about the the pollution of trees and that. I was just I seen in the news this week. Apparently, with coal, Europe and everything. Apparently, something to do with coal. Poland's been given a veto or something, so they don't have to stop using it. Is that correct?
Yes, because at the present moment they don't have an alternative. If you didn't have a nuclear power station, well, what are you going to drive the city with? So they've said, keep on going, but within the next 10, 15 years, you've got to start planning towards not using coal, fossil fuels at all. So they've got to... It's not like we'll let you get away with it. It's we'll let you get away with it for the moment, but you've got to aim towards wiping it out within the next X number of years. So that's kind of where they are.
I know they've got a bit of a queer government. Well, I shouldn't use the word queer, should I? A bit of a, the government's a bit like, what's the word I'm looking for? They'll do what they want and they don't care sort of thing at the minute.
Well, there's a few of them kicking around, to be quite honest. They're not alone there. It's just the good news is that they want to sign up to, to change the world environmentally at least. So they want to be part of it. And to be honest, that's half the battle. Once you get a country that's prepared to say, well, I want to change things, well, that's great. It's when you get them like Donald Trump that says, well, there's nothing wrong in the first place. So, and every other country gets it. He's yet to. So,
not bothered, is he?
It'll happen. Well, he might be in prison by the time it happens. Who knows? Who knows?
He might get the electric chair.
I don't think they'll go that far with him, but I do think if he's not careful, he'll either end up in prison before the end of his term, or as soon as his term's over, they'll be waiting for him with the shackles.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll move on.
Okay.
Just a quick one about your podcast, Niagara Falls. Brilliant. I loved it.
Good. Thank you.
I love them. Going on to the main one I rung about. I heard the guy, the trucker fella, answering earlier. Last week I was asking about the air defence over.
Yes.
If an aeroplane went AWOL sort of thing and that. And he was talking about the fast jets would get up there and get beside it, see what was going on, and would potentially blow it out of the sky. So I was I've had my question answered, and I was very surprised at that.
Yeah, because I thought surely on the top of some building there's not ACAC, but something a little bit more high tech than that, but apparently not.
Because if it took off from Heathrow Airport, how would they get there that fast? Do you know what I mean? Because it's already in London, isn't it? If, you know, if somebody's took over it. And I just imagined them having, like, you know, like what Sam's had a surface to wear for, something like that, you know, to where, you know, if it was going sort of like on an airwell going towards something like central London or something like that, you know.
But let's say, for sake of argument, that you had at the top of the post office tower, let's pick something that we could recognise easily. Top of the post office tower, you've got a surface-to-air missile or something fancy.
Yeah.
And a terrorist took control of it.
Yeah.
Do you see the potential for this? Then it could knock down however many airplanes it wants until because let's face it, planes over London, you see them every 2 minutes. It's not every hour or anything. You know, they're passing by all the time. So maybe by putting weaponry like that on the streets, you're making a bigger problem for yourself rather than having maybe 2 or 3 jets with their pilots just sitting there 24/7, ready to go, you know, and they can get there within 7 minutes or however long it takes.
Yeah. I know it seems to be, you know, like somewhat like I'll be honest with you, when that 9/11 carry-on happened, which was terrible. To be honest with you, I never ever dreamed anything like that would happen, especially in America. I thought their security for anything like that, you know, I just couldn't imagine that happening there. That really surprised me, you know.
Yeah, but you see, you're in a country where nothing like that had ever happened before, and you've got people at pilot training schools being asked by people from an Arab nation, it was actually Saudi Arabia, asking them to teach them how to fly a plane. And when the guy said, well, next week we're going to teach you how to land it, and they say, that won't be necessary. Well, there was kind of a hint there, wasn't there, of something?
There was like, you'd think that would, like, throw up and like a few negative thoughts and think, well, why is he saying that sort of thing?
Sure, and maybe bring in some authorities to have a brief chat with a guy.
Yeah, but like something like that, like happening now, they took over aeroplanes like that. I mean, to be honest with you, it's something I never even imagined anybody doing. You know, I mean, I can remember when I was a kid in the 70s, you know, the Arab nations used to, like, hijack planes and blow them up left, right and centre, didn't they, in the 70s, you know, and stuff like that. But that was more of, like, a political thing. Like, a lot of the times they let the people off, they blew them up on the ground, I think, a lot of the times, and stuff like that.
That's true.
But, like, taking over and doing something like what happened, I mean, I never ever imagined that kind of thing happening.
I don't think anybody did. When I walked in and it was on the TV, you know, you click the TV on and you see it. I thought it was something like Die Hard 4. Or I presumed it was one of those kind of movies.
Well, you know, it was funny, and, you know, you remember where you were. I was actually driving a lorry going over the A19 flyover over the Tees when it come on the radio. That's where I was when it happened. It's funny how we remember something like that.
Yeah.
And that's where it come on as a news flash. The first one it said something like, we've just heard there's an aeroplane crashed into the World Trade Center. We don't know what's going on yet. We think it might be an accident.
Yeah, no, I remember all of that. And I remember walking in with my coat on, and I remember I was wanting to eat or drink something because I'd been out all morning doing some gig, and I came walking in the afternoon. The TV was on. I saw it, and I remember about 40 minutes later, I was still in my coat. You know, I hadn't moved from the spot because you just couldn't believe what you were witnessing. It was
and then
awful.
After that initial like thing when it said is looking into it might be an accident sort of thing, and then within sort of like a short distance of time, the whole networks on the radio, every channel was flooded with it. What was actually going on then, and then you knew it was something really bad. You know, I can remember it, and I hope it never ever happens over here or anywhere else ever again. Like it was a bad one.
It was awful.
But your friend there, the trucker, he seems to know his stuff about that kind of thing. And
he gets straight on with it. He gets straight on the computer. I do not know the answer. I shall find out.
Yeah, because I mean, to be honest with you, I did have a look and I couldn't find anything about it. I thought that must be like classified or something, and they're not releasing anything at all. You know, so it's obviously what people have like surmised and found out and looked into and that and put it up.
Or there really is something on the top of the post office tower or at the top of a few other buildings, but they're not telling us, presumably because they don't want any bad things to happen to the stuff that's up there. So,
just one last little thing I just wanted to ask you. A last one. It's about Scotland, actually. Okay. You know, the Scottish referendum doesn't look like it's going to happen at the minute with Boris. He said no and all the rest of it. And Nicola Sturgeon, you know, she said, like, basically she said she wants nuclear, you know, where our nuclear boats go and they get fixed and the bombs are somewhere in Scotland. You know where I mean, a nuclear base.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and she said she wants it all off Scotland property. So what would happen to all them jobs in the base and everything if Scotland got independence and all them would obviously move south or whatever? What would happen? Would they just close it down?
Well, I think they would. You've got to remember where it is. If it's where I think it is, which is like around a place called Fastlane. It's always traditionally been around there with submarines and ships being refueled and stuff. It's a beautiful part of Scotland. And you can see how beautiful it is from a distance, but it's full of military bases, and you kind of get down to the loch, and you kind of get down to the sea, and so it's military as far as the eye can see. I would imagine that would be instantly somebody'd hire a couple of hotels up, and suddenly there'd be a town probably built there, or widen the town that's already there, and before you know where you're at, you've got another Largs, Fort William, you know what I mean? It would be taken back into the palace. They just don't agree with the rationale of having nuclear submarines because they don't think we'll ever fire them. I hope we won't ever fire them. And they think we should just save our money and become Switzerland or one of those kind of countries. Problem is, we make our mouth go too much to be Switzerland. You cannot say we are a world power if you have no power. You know that's you cannot have it both ways. You can't say, well, we want to remain this great world power because we've got all this weaponry, and then say, well, no, we don't. We want to be Norway. Well, there's nothing wrong with being Norway, but you just don't have a voice on the world stage unless you've got a bit of something to back it up, if you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, the defence there and that, especially the way Russia's been kicking off and stuff like that, you know, it's queer. And very last one now, I've got to ask you the very last one. Could, do you know, like our nuclear deterrent, if it ever got fired, would we be allowed to fire it, or is it true they'd have to get permission off the United States?
No, we'd be allowed to fire it if we thought that Britain was at risk. And if we didn't do that, they would... Because let's face it, it would only take probably three Hiroshima-style missiles hitting the right places, probably nuclear power stations, and we'd be untouchable on this island for the next 300 years.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So if that's the case, if we thought if we fire one, we can take out the missiles before they're fired, and I suppose we would...
Why don't the likes of us, Russia and the United States, and I think France is one, and why don't we all just have half a dozen each instead of hundreds?
Well, yeah, because one can do as much damage as the others. I hear that too. But when you hear that Saudi Arabia's got 30 and Pakistan's got 40, and you've got to kind of keep up with the people around you.
They must be expensive. If you fire one, it must be expensive to use one. I mean,
so apparently 100 for a Stinger missile that you attach to an aeroplane, it's £111,000 if you fire it.
God, there's a few nurses for a year, isn't it?
Well, this is, but you see, that's what Scotland say. That's what Scotland say. So, hey, who knows? Hey, great talking to you, Rich.
Yeah, I know. I'll be here all night. You'll have to stop me.
Thanks for coming on. All the best.
It's absolutely love it, mate. See you later.
Thanks, man. Bye-bye.